Hello and welcome to the CCD podcast. I'm Matt Dixon and today I'm joined by Richard Carter. Hi Richard.
Hi Matt, great to be with you today.
Excellent. So some of you may know Richard from his time at BASF, MD of the UK business. And Richard has since departed from BASF and is now spending a bit of time consulting, looking at sort of agile working and circular economy, CO2 issues, all the sort of exciting hot topics of today. So I'm delighted to have Richard on, and I thought we might discuss some of these issues and how he's working with his new consulting clients. So, Richard, I hope you're well and ready to have a chat.
Yep, delighted to be with you today, Matt, and thanks for teeing up some of those topics. The world has never been more volatile and more exciting. Disruption is opportunity as well.
Yes, it's been a recurring theme in some of these chats the last couple of years and the 2 years before that, particularly when looking at the UK and Brexit and everything. So yeah, 30 odd years at BASF, I think. Do you want to just give us a quick snapshot of?
Yes, just a quick snapshot about my journey at BASF, because 30 years is a long time, but I had multiple opportunities. I joined the company as a graduate trainee, and within the first 12 months, somebody asked me if I would be interested in taking on a project based in Singapore for 12 months. I asked what the project was. They said, "We can't tell you, but are you interested?" So I said yes, and 2 months later, the project wasn't in Singapore, it was in Kuala Lumpur. That was a key learning for me. If there are opportunities, things that you're passionate about, don't hesitate. You have to grab them. So after that early start in Malaysia, I moved into chemical intermediates. I'm not a chemist. Interestingly enough, that was the part of the business that I didn't want to go into. But again, great learning opportunity. I then moved from the sales and marketing side into procurement. Some people call procurement the dark side. I don't know why, because that is where a lot of money, a lot of profit, bottom line profit is actually earned. After leaving procurement, I spent time in home and personal care, working with the global key accounts, the likes of L'Oreal, Unilever, etc. And in 2016, after 25 years outside of the UK, I returned to the UK.
Yeah, an exciting time to come back.
An exciting time to come back. And I guess one of my learnings is scenario planning, because I personally came back to the UK. I did not get the outcome of the referendum right. I think a lot of big companies did not anticipate that. So that was a real shock. And that really then dictated a lot of my activities for the ensuing next 5 years.
So you've had quite a bit of experience of different areas of the business all around the world, and then you're thrown into the dealing with Brexit and everything that was involved. So what kind of things were you doing during that time?
Well, one of our key topics was looking at obviously the impact, the costs on the business, potential costs. But we spent a lot of time, and I spent a lot of time engaging with the UK government on chemical regulations, REACH. And, we really put a lot of time into analysis and proposing alternatives to European REACH. The end result, we all know, is UK REACH, which I think is not necessarily fit for purpose. But that was one area where we did spend a lot of time. And then as the exit date got closer, more the operational elements, where do we need more resources to face the new situation?
Yeah, and you mentioned to me before that you rather presciently instigated a more agile working initiative just before the working at home pandemic.
Indeed, the future of work is a topic I'm really passionate about, because there was a need to change. So we kicked off our Future of Work project. And it's really interesting. One of my learnings was back in 2018, we had serious discussions about whether it would work if everybody were to have the right to work one day at home. We said, we think we can do it. And we ramped it up to 2 to 3 days per week before the pandemic hit. But that was also a key learning for me, because organizations need to challenge themselves. They need to challenge the paradigms. And we did that. And it started by looking at all our policies, contract policies, employment policies. It involved technology. And when I say using technology, I mean starting at the top. So I spent a lot of time in training with my leadership team to make sure that I could handle Teams, Zoom, or well, it wasn't so much Zoom back then, but the technology.
Yeah, and are you sort of applying that experience now to some of your consulting clients?
Indeed, because the model for the future is actually very simple. It's a hybrid model, and that can be A or it can be Z on the scale, depending on the person, depending on the business, depending on the country, etc. But I think the key to success is to create an optionality, almost a menu for leaders and for their people, because that, I'm absolutely convinced, raises satisfaction levels. I talk seriously about the happiness index for people, because you then get better results.
Yeah, and does it have to be sort of all aligned with sort of an IT initiative as well, allowing things like this, Teams calls and operating systems from home that perhaps you could only access from work before?
The IT setup and framework is, I would say, one of the prerequisites. I think at the beginning of the pandemic, we saw people were jumping on systems and programs that kind of got them through, but they weren't optimum. So yes, a sound foundation is required, and as I said, the training.
Yeah. So one of the things we find in some of our projects, any kind of change program, there's an element of, the classic kind of hearts and minds, getting everyone on board, getting the infrastructure in place, like the IT, but then actually getting people engaged and using it in the right way. And that applies to many different sort of changes. And where does the sustainability circular economy part of your repertoire come from, and what are you doing with it now?
Well, in my previous experience at BASF, there was a lot of emphasis on, for example, answering the question, what does the EU Green Deal mean for us? But sustainability at BASF obviously has its roots many, many years ago. So I was involved in topics such as chem cycling, talking with our customers, packaging companies, for example, new packaging developments, the fast-moving consumer goods companies, looking at their requirements. So it was a topic that I was already involved in, but since stepping out, I now have more time, and I take I guess, a broader view, some of the bigger topics, and a great read to really get into the subject is the IEA Net Zero 2050 report. 200 pages, but it really shows the transformation that is ahead of us, and it lays out some scenarios. And I think the scenario planning is so important, to look out 2030, 2040, to think about S curves in terms of new technologies that will be, without doubt, coming to application in the chemical industry and the petrochemical industry.
Yeah, one of the things I'd be interested to hear your view on is, I suppose, quite a few of the people we're talking to now maybe have foundations in more traditional chemical industry business, and are really kind of actively or proactively looking at more circular economy or green or low CO2 technologies, and looking to not necessarily completely change their business model, but certainly adapt it and make significant changes and get into new markets, things with bio on the front, for example. And that, it seems like a bit of a shift from maybe 5 years ago, when there's a bit more of the what you might call greenwashing, where people were sort of putting a sticker on things. And there seems to be more of a willingness and an eagerness to really embrace it now.
Yes, indeed. And I think, we're all consumers as well. And let's never forget that. We make purchasing decisions every day when we're out in the world. The consumer is no longer satisfied with many forms of the so-called offsetting. Consumers are looking for real reductions in CO2, and they want to believe in the products they're buying, and they want to know what is behind that. And that, it might sound trivial, but it's actually a key part in the circular economy, because I think every company needs to map out, where are they in the circle? So I'm a consumer. I then dispose of my waste, which is then collected. That is already a very different setup in different countries. And I think it's, when I reflect on my UK experience, it's an area of massive improvement potential, because the collection, the sort, then provides the materials for, be it mechanical recycling or chemical recycling, to get into the feedstock, recycled feedstock that goes back into the circular economy. And what I think is important is that each company knows where they are, and I'm absolutely convinced that a new degree of collaboration is necessary, because what we're seeing in the value chain, we're seeing major shifts. We're seeing big petrochemical and chemical players investing in wind farms. We're seeing supermarket chains investing in waste, in the waste industry, and actually going into waste collection. So there's a lot of movement in the value chain, and lots of opportunities.
Yeah, disruption, new markets, lots of opportunities. And so the big players are making these quite big, you might call them seismic shifts, and then there must be opportunities popping up around for some of the smaller players, maybe the innovators that have a particular technology, and how do they fit in, how do they capture that opportunity, or end up in a, you don't end up in a dead end where suddenly someone decides that's the wrong route. So certainly we're having conversations like that, and I'm sure you are as well.
Yeah, and I think that there are so many smaller companies that have what I would call an innovation edge or a technological edge. And when we look at, if we take one segment of the market, if you look at mechanical recycling or chemical recycling, we see a lot of very innovative companies who are partnering with the big players in the industry, because the smaller companies, they're quicker, they move faster, they're closer to other parts in the chain. And I think this is the form of collaboration that is actually intensifying. And I think that smaller companies with technology, they are also in a prime position to tap into financing. Because when we look at, let's take the EU program, there are literally billions, hundreds of billions that have been allocated for investment in the EU Green Deal. But what we're seeing is there is a dearth of feasible projects. So, the money is there, and this is also, I think, a big opportunity for smaller, more nimble companies.
Yeah, that does sound something they should definitely be latching onto. Yeah. Okay. And so obviously you learned quite a lot from your BASF experience, which you're now transferring to your clients. What would you say the most important thing they should be thinking about over the next 5 years?
I think it is looking at looking at the 5 to 10-year view, think the unthinkable. If I look back, Brexit, pandemic, CO2 emissions, what has hit us in the last 5 years is unbelievable. Some of the biggest changes in our lifetime. So to have that mid to long term view, and one key advantage that smaller players have is their customer focus, customer centricity, and actually gaining those insights from customers, working with customers to avoid any surprises. And due to the speed and the agility, I think customer centricity is a key point. And at the end of the day, the unique value proposition has to be clear, because it's the UVP that is going to get companies through whatever may hit them next or hit us next in terms of external shocks.
Yeah, if you've got your core story right, then you're better equipped to deal with whatever it might be. Yeah,
indeed. And I think if you look at Brexit was a trigger to review business models. The pandemic, a trigger to review business models, because this is not business as usual. So any company that has not significantly adapted over the last 2 years, I think they need to really ask themselves, are they fit for the future? What happens if we get some new external shocks?
Yeah. Are you fit for the future? I guess that's a good point to end. But yeah, there's certainly some interesting things for people to think about. Thank you very much, Richard. It's been great having you on.
Thank you very much for having me. Great discussion, Matt. Goodbye.
Bye.